2 in the morning, and I'm in my garage fixing the transmission on my beat-up Ford when I hear Talia through the thin walls. She's in our kitchen, practicing something. Her voice carries that artificial sweetness she uses when she wants something big. "Silas, honey, I have the most wonderful news," she says to our empty house. Then again, with different emphasis, "Silas, sweetheart, you're going to be so excited." I set down my wrench and listen closer. My wife is rehearsing a speech at 2 a.m. In 15 years of marriage, Talia has never been spontaneous about anything good. Every surprise, every announcement gets workshopped like a corporate presentation. "We're going to have a baby," she practices, voice trembling with what sounds like genuine emotion. My stomach drops. 3 years ago, I had a vasectomy. Dr. Peterson at Lakeview Medical Center performed the procedure himself. I've had annual follow-ups confirming 0 sperm count every single time. The last test was 6 months ago, still shooting blanks, as the doctor so eloquently put it. I grab a beer from the mini fridge and lean against my workbench. Either medical science just witnessed a miracle, or my wife is carrying someone else's child. Given that we haven't been intimate in 4 months, I'm betting on option 2. The kitchen goes quiet. I hear Talia's footsteps on the stairs, then the bedroom door closing. I stay in the garage another hour, thinking. By morning, I've got a plan. Sunday brunch arrives with Talia wearing her best dress and that practiced smile. My 8-year-old daughter Emma is here for the weekend, building a waffle tower while Talia fidgets with her coffee cup. "Silas, honey," Talia begins, hitting the same notes she rehearsed, "I have the most wonderful news." I look up from my eggs, expression carefully neutral. "What's that?" "We're going to have a baby." Her hand moves to her stomach in a gesture that looks borrowed from a pregnancy announcement video. Emma drops her fork. "Really? A baby brother or sister?" "That's incredible," I say, standing to hug Talia. Over her shoulder, I catch my reflection in the kitchen window. I look exactly like what I am, a man pretending to be happy about impossible news. "How far along?" "About 8 weeks," she says into my shoulder. "We should schedule an appointment with Dr. Martinez for a full evaluation," I tell her, pulling back to meet her eyes. "Lab tests, genetic screening, all the important checks, just to be sure everything is developing exactly as it should." Something flickers across her face. Fear? Guilt? It's gone before I can pin it down. "Of course," she agrees. "I want everything to be perfect." Emma launches into excited chatter about baby names and nursery colors. Talia plays along, but I notice she keeps glancing at me like she's waiting for something. Maybe for me to ask the obvious question about timing and biology. Maybe for me to congratulate her properly. Instead, I clear the dishes and let her wonder what I'm thinking. Monday morning, I call Dr. Martinez's office. Talia works at Riverfront Logistics downtown, so I handle the appointment scheduling. The receptionist is helpful when I explain we want comprehensive genetic screening. "For paternity confirmation too," I add casually. "Just want everything documented properly for insurance purposes." "Absolutely, Mr. Marin. We can do cell-free DNA testing as early as 9 weeks. Very accurate, completely safe for mother and baby." After I hang up, I sit in my home office staring at my medical files. 3 years ago, I kept every piece of documentation from the vasectomy. Pre-operative consultation, the procedure notes, follow-up appointments, annual testing results. Dr. Peterson was thorough. I call his office and request copies of my complete file, claiming I need them for the new pregnancy workup. The nurse promises to have everything ready by Wednesday. Something's not adding up, and I intend to find out what. The Riverfront Logistics Company picnic happens every June at Riverside Park. Families, games, barbecue, and the kind of forced corporate fun that makes everyone uncomfortable. Talia has been talking about it for weeks, mostly about how important it is for her career advancement. She's been working late constantly since her promotion to senior logistics coordinator 6 months ago. Her boss, Marlow Trasker, runs the distribution division and apparently requires a lot of after-hours consultation. At least, that's how Talia explains the midnight phone calls and weekend emails. I've met Marlow twice. Both times, he seemed like the kind of guy who wears expensive cologne to hide the fact that he's fundamentally hollow inside. Tall, polished, with the practiced charm of someone who's never been told no by anyone who matters. Saturday arrives sunny and warm. Emma's with her mother this weekend, so it's just Talia and me driving to the park. She's nervous, adjusting her dress and checking her makeup in the passenger mirror. "You'll like everyone," she says for the third time. "Marlow's really excited to talk with you about your construction background. He mentioned maybe discussing some warehouse renovation projects." I nod, but I'm thinking about the timing. Talia's been working for Marlow for 8 months. She announced her pregnancy last week. If she's 8 weeks along, conception happened right around the time she started staying late at the office. The picnic is exactly what I expected, folding tables loaded with potato salad and corporate-sponsored hamburgers. Kids running around while parents make small talk about quarterly projections and vacation plans. I spot Marlow immediately. He's standing near the volleyball net with his wife, an elegant woman in her 40s who looks like she stepped out of a country club magazine. Marlow sees me approaching, and his entire demeanor changes. "Marlow," I call out, extending my hand. "Good to see you again." He glances around like he's looking for an escape route, then reluctantly shakes my hand. His palm is sweating. "Silas, right. Good to see you too." His voice sounds strained. "Excuse me, I just remembered I need to check on the catering setup." He walks away quickly, leaving his wife staring after him with raised eyebrows. "I'm Sylvie Noren," she introduces herself. "Marlow's wife. He's been looking forward to talking with you about construction projects." "Has he?" I watch Marlow disappear behind the pavilion. He seemed pretty eager to get away just now. Sylvie's smile becomes more genuine. "He's been acting strange lately, nervous about something. I was hoping you might know why." Before I can answer, we're interrupted by a commotion near the volleyball court. Marlow's teenage son from his previous marriage is pointing at Talia and talking loudly enough for half the picnic to hear. "Dad, is that the lady you're always on the phone with at night?" The kid looks about 16, with the kind of blunt honesty that cuts through adult pretense like a knife. "The one from your work?" Every conversation within 20 feet stops. Talia's face goes bright red. Marlow appears from behind the pavilion looking like he's about to be sick. "Tyler, that's enough," Marlow snaps at his son. "But you said her name was Talia, right? And she's having a baby?" Tyler continues, oblivious to the damage he's causing. "Are you the godfather or something?" Sylvie drops her plate. Potato salad splatters across her shoes, but she doesn't seem to notice. She's staring at her husband with an expression I recognize from my own mirror. Someone who just realized they've been played for a fool. "Marlow," she says quietly, "we need to talk." The rest of the picnic passes in a blur of awkward conversations and meaningful glances. Talia stays close to me, but I can feel the tension radiating off her like heat from asphalt. Marlow avoids our entire section of the park. On the drive home, Talia is silent until we're almost back to our neighborhood. "Tyler's just a confused kid," she finally says. "Marlow and I work closely together. Of course his family knows my name." "Of course," I agree. "Though it's interesting that a 16-year-old knows about your pregnancy before most of our own friends do." She doesn't have an answer for that. That evening, while Talia showers, I find an envelope on our kitchen counter that wasn't there this morning. It's from Mutual Assurance Company, addressed to both of us. Inside is a policy modification notice. Our life insurance has been increased to $3.5 million with an accidental demise rider that doubles the payout. The primary beneficiary is listed as children of insured, which would now include Talia's unborn child. The secondary beneficiary makes my hands shake. Marlow Trasker, listed as business partner. I've never had any business relationship with Marlow Trasker. We've spoken maybe 10 sentences total in 2 meetings. Yet somehow he's positioned to inherit millions if something unfortunate happens to me. I pour myself a scotch and read the policy details twice. The changes were made 6 months ago, right around the time Talia got her promotion. The timing feels less like coincidence and more like planning. Upstairs, the shower is still running. I take photos of every page with my phone, then put the envelope back exactly where I found it. When Talia comes down in her robe, I'm reading a magazine like nothing happened. "What are you up to?" she asks, toweling her hair. "Just relaxing," I tell her. "It's been an interesting day." She kisses the top of my head, and I smell her shampoo mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe, or fear. "Yes," she agrees. "Very interesting." Monday morning, I call my lawyer buddy Jake Patterson. We went to high school together, and he's handled everything from my divorce paperwork to business contracts over the years. Jake's the kind of friend who asks the right questions without judging the answers. "I need you to look into something," I tell him over coffee at Murphy's Diner. Quietly. Jake listens while I explain about the pregnancy, the vasectomy, and the insurance policy. He takes notes in his careful lawyer handwriting, asking for dates and details. "You want me to investigate your own wife," he summarizes when I finish. "I want you to investigate the facts," I correct him. "The facts don't line up, and I need to know why." "Silas, if this goes where I think it's going, you need to be prepared for what we might find." "I'm prepared for the truth," I tell him. "It's the lies that are causing problems." Jake agrees to run background checks on Marlow Trasker and look into the insurance policy changes. He also recommends a private investigator, but I'm not ready for that step yet. First, I want to see what public records can tell me. Wednesday, I pick up my medical files from Dr. Peterson's office. The nurse hands me a thick folder with everything from the initial consultation through my most recent annual testing. I thank her and head home to review everything. In my home office, I spread the papers across my desk chronologically. Preoperative consultation, surgical notes, recovery instructions, 6-month follow-up, 1-year testing, 2-year testing, 3-year testing. Everything looks normal until I get to a note dated 3 months ago. Patient consultation regarding reversal procedure. Discussed options and timeline. Patient requested additional time to consider. Follow-up scheduled. I read it twice. The handwriting doesn't match Dr. Peterson's usual notes. It's neater, more feminine, and the medical terminology seems off. I never had any consultation about a reversal. I never even considered it. Someone added this note to my file, and they did a poor job of forging the doctor's handwriting. I call Dr. Peterson's office and ask to speak with him directly. The nurse puts me through after a brief hold. "Silas, good to hear from you. How's everything going?" "Dr. Peterson, I'm looking at my file, and there's a note here about a reversal consultation 3 months ago. I never had that appointment." Long pause. "Let me pull up your records on my computer." I hear typing. "That's strange. I don't show any appointment with you since your annual testing 6 months ago. What exactly does the note say?" I read it to him word for word. More typing on his end. "Silas, that note isn't in our electronic records. Someone added it to your physical file after the fact. The handwriting isn't mine, and I certainly didn't have any reversal discussion with you." "Who has access to patient files?" "Very limited access. Medical staff, insurance reviewers in certain circumstances, and patients or their designated representatives can request copies." He pauses. "Has someone been requesting your medical information?" I think about Talia's suggestion that we get complete genetic screening for the pregnancy. "Possibly. Can you make a note in my electronic file that the reversal consultation never happened?" "Absolutely. And Silas, you might want to consider who's been handling your medical paperwork lately." After I hang up, I sit staring at the forged note. Someone with access to my medical files tried to create a paper trail suggesting I could father a child. The handwriting looks familiar, but I can't place it immediately. Then I remember Talia's insurance paperwork from last year. She handled all the medical forms for our annual policy renewal. I dig through our filing cabinet until I find her handwriting samples. The reversal consultation note matches Talia's handwriting perfectly. Thursday evening, Jake calls with preliminary information about Marlow Trasker. What he found makes the insurance policy look even more suspicious. Marlow's got financial problems, Jake reports. His family's company is solid, but he's personally leveraged to the eyeballs. Expensive divorce settlement, private school tuition for 2 kids, mortgage on a townhouse he can't afford. He's been borrowing against his company shares. How much trouble is he in? Enough that a $3 million insurance payout would solve most of his problems, Jake says. There's something else. I ran a background check and found an interesting connection. What kind of connection? Marlow and Talia both attended graduate school at State University 8 years ago. Same program, same time frame. Her employment application listed him as a former academic colleague, but it was buried in the references section. I lean back in my chair. They knew each other before she got the job. Looks that way. And Silas? The insurance policy modification was filed with Marlow's signature as the secondary beneficiary. He had to provide identification and sign paperwork accepting the designation. So he knew about it. He definitely knew about it. After Jake hangs up, I pour another scotch and think about timeline. Talia and Marlow knew each other in graduate school. She gets hired at his company 8 months ago. 6 months ago, she increases our life insurance and adds him as beneficiary. 2 months ago, she gets pregnant with his child. Last month, someone forges a note in my medical file suggesting a vasectomy reversal. This isn't a casual affair that got complicated. This is a plan. Friday night, Talia works late again. She calls around 8 to say Marlow needs her to finish quarterly reports before Monday's board meeting. I tell her I understand and order pizza for myself. While she's gone, I decide to visit her office building. Riverfront Logistics occupies 3 floors of a converted warehouse downtown, with plenty of parking and minimal security. I'm not planning to break in or do anything dramatic. I just want to see if Talia and Marlow are actually working. The parking garage is mostly empty at 9 p.m., but I spot Talia's Honda on the 3rd level. Marlow's BMW is parked 2 spaces away. I find a spot with a clear view of both cars and settle in to wait. At 9:47, they emerge from the elevator together. Even from 50 yards away, their body language tells the story. Marlow's hand rests on the small of Talia's back as they walk. She leans into him when he says something that makes her laugh. They stop beside her car for what looks like an intimate conversation. Then Marlow kisses her. Not a friendly peck or a casual goodbye. A long, passionate kiss between lovers who've been doing this for months. I take photos with my phone, though I don't really need evidence of what I'm seeing. They separate reluctantly, and Talia gets in her car. Marlow waits until she drives away before getting in his BMW. I follow him instead of going home. He drives to Riverside Terrace, an upscale development on the north side of town. His townhouse is exactly what I expected: modern, expensive, and soulless. All glass and steel angles designed to impress rather than comfort. As I drive home, I realize I'm not angry. I should be furious about the affair, the pregnancy, the insurance fraud. Instead, I feel something colder and more focused. They've been planning this for months, maybe longer. Now it's time for me to make some plans of my own. Saturday morning, Emma comes for her weekend visit. She's excited about the baby and full of questions about when she'll meet her new sibling. I make pancakes and let her chatter while I think about how to protect her from what's coming. Daddy, Talia taught me a secret, Emma says around a mouthful of pancake. What kind of secret? She said if anyone asks about the baby, I should tell them you had surgery to fix something so you could be a daddy again. Emma looks proud of remembering the complicated message. She made me practice saying it right. My fork stops halfway to my mouth. She taught you to say I had surgery? Uh-huh. She said it was important for people to know you really wanted another baby. Emma tilts her head. Did you have surgery, Daddy? No, sweetheart, I didn't have any surgery. Then why did Talia want me to say that? I set down my fork and look at my daughter, 8 years old, innocent, and being used as a prop in an adult game she doesn't understand. The cold feeling in my chest gets a little colder. Sometimes adults say things that aren't true, I tell her carefully. You don't need to worry about what other people think about the baby. That's grown-up business. Okay, Daddy. She goes back to her pancakes, the conversation already forgotten. But I won't forget. They're not just planning to frame me for insurance fraud. They're coaching my daughter to lie for them, using her innocence to make their story more believable. That crosses a line I didn't even know existed. Sunday afternoon, I drop Emma off at her mother's house and drive to Murphy's gym. It's an old-school boxing place downtown, where I've been working out for years. The owner, Coach Denny Morrison, is a former Marine who believes in solving problems with direct action. I find him in his office, reviewing fight schedules for next month's amateur tournament. You look like someone who needs to hit something, Denny observes without looking up from his paperwork. That obvious? You've got that look. Same one you had during your divorce. He finally glances up. What's the problem this time? I give him the abbreviated version. Wife's pregnant, can't be mine, insurance policy, evidence of planning. Denny listens without interrupting, occasionally nodding. So what are you going to do about it? He asks when I finish. I'm still figuring that out. Silas, you've got two choices. You can be a victim, or you can be a problem. Denny leans back in his chair. Victims hope things work out. Problems make things work out. What would you do? I'd make sure they regretted picking me as their target. His smile isn't friendly. But I'd be smart about it. Emotional reactions lead to mistakes. You want to be cold and methodical. I spend an hour hitting the heavy bag, working out frustration and thinking about Denny's advice. By the time I leave, I know what I'm going to do. Talia and Marlow want to play games with insurance policies and forged medical records. They want to use my daughter as a witness to their lies. They think I'm just a blue-collar construction worker who won't figure out their scheme until it's too late. Time to show them how wrong they are. Monday morning starts with a call from Dr. Martinez's office. Talia's appointment for genetic screening is scheduled for Thursday, and they need both of us there for the paternity testing component. Mr. Meron, just to confirm, you're requesting comprehensive DNA analysis, including paternity confirmation, the nurse asks. That's correct. I want everything documented thoroughly. Perfect. We'll need cheek swabs from both parents and a maternal sample for the fetal DNA. Results typically take 7 to 10 business days. After I hang up, I call Talia at work to confirm the appointment time. She sounds nervous when I mention the paternity testing. Is that really necessary? She asks. I mean, we know it's your baby. Insurance requires it for the genetic screening. I lie smoothly. Might as well get everything done at once. Of course, that makes sense. But her voice suggests it makes no sense at all. Tuesday, Jake calls with more information about the insurance policy. What he found makes me realize how deep this scheme goes. The policy modification required both signatures, but yours was notarized by someone at Talia's office, Jake reports. Jennifer Walsh, administrative assistant at Riverfront Logistics. I never signed anything in front of Jennifer Walsh. I've never met Jennifer Walsh. I figured as much. I pulled the notary records, and Jennifer Walsh's commission expired 6 months before she supposedly notarized your signature. Jake pauses. Someone forged your signature and used an invalid notary seal. That's fraud. Multiple counts of fraud. Insurance fraud, forgery, notary fraud. We're talking serious felony charges if you want to pursue them. I think about Emma practicing her lines about my fictional surgery, about Marlow kissing my wife in a parking garage, about $3.5 million waiting for someone to arrange my accidental demise. Not yet, I tell Jake. I want to see how far they're willing to take this. Silas, if they're planning what I think they're planning, you need to be careful. Maybe consider staying somewhere else for a while. I'm not running from my own house, I say, but I am going to start documenting everything. Wednesday evening, I install a small security camera in my home office. It's hidden behind some books on the shelf, with a clear view of my desk and filing cabinet. If someone's been going through my medical records, I want proof. I also start carrying a digital recorder in my pocket. Every conversation with Talia gets recorded now. If this ends up in court, I want evidence of every lie she tells. Thursday's appointment at Dr. Martinez's office goes exactly as I expected. Talia is nervous, fidgeting with her purse and asking repeated questions about the testing process. I'm calm and cooperative, playing the role of an excited, expectant father. This is so exciting, I tell Dr. Martinez as we finish the paperwork. I can't wait to find out everything about our baby. Talia gives me a sharp look, but Dr. Martinez just smiles and agrees that genetic testing provides valuable peace of mind. The actual testing takes 15 minutes, cheek swabs for both of us, a simple maternal procedure for fetal DNA. Dr. Martinez explains that the results will show genetic markers, potential health issues, and definitively confirm paternity. The paternity component is over 99% accurate, he assures us. No ambiguity in the results. Perfect, I say, squeezing Talia's hand. We want to be absolutely certain about everything. On the drive home, Talia is quiet until we're almost back to our neighborhood. Silas, what if the test shows something unexpected? She asks carefully. Like what? I don't know. Sometimes these tests have errors, false results. She's gripping the steering wheel tightly. I just don't want you to worry if there's some kind of lab mistake. I'm sure the results will be exactly what we expect, I tell her. Dr. Martinez said the testing is very reliable. Right, of course. But she doesn't sound convinced. Friday brings the first direct contact from Marlow since the company picnic disaster. He calls my cell phone around noon while I'm at a construction site reviewing plans for a warehouse renovation. Silas, it's Marlow Trasker from Riverfront Logistics. Marlow, good to hear from you. I step away from my crew and activate the recorder in my pocket. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize for my behavior at the company picnic. I've been under a lot of stress lately, and I wasn't very social. No problem at all. Talia mentioned you've been working long hours. Yes, exactly. The thing is, I've been thinking about those warehouse renovation projects we discussed. I'd love to meet and talk about some potential contracts. We never discussed any warehouse renovation projects. This is the first time Marlow has shown any interest in my construction business, but I play along. That sounds great. When did you want to meet? How about tomorrow evening? Say, 7 o'clock at Murphy's Bar downtown. We can discuss the details over drinks. Murphy's Bar is a dive in the warehouse district. Dark, loud, and not the kind of place where legitimate business gets conducted. It's the kind of place where someone might arrange an accident for a man who's asking too many questions about paternity tests. Perfect, I tell Marlow. I'll see you there. After he hangs up, I call Jake and fill him in on the conversation. You're not actually going to meet him, Jake says. Yes, I am, but not alone. Silas, this is getting dangerous. It was dangerous the moment they decided to frame me for insurance fraud, I point out. Now I want to see what Marlow has in mind. Saturday evening, I arrive at Murphy's Bar 15 minutes early. Denny Morrison is already there, sitting at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. He's wearing civilian clothes, but anyone with experience can tell he's former military. I take a seat at the bar and order a beer. At exactly 7 o'clock, Marlow walks in looking nervous and overdressed for the neighborhood. He spots me immediately and approaches with a forced smile. Silas, thanks for meeting me. My pleasure. Should we grab a table? Marlow glances around the bar, taking in the rough crowd and dim lighting. Actually, I was thinking we might drive out to one of the warehouse sites. Easier to discuss renovations if you can see the space. Sure, that makes sense. I finish my beer and stand up. Want to take my truck? I've got all the construction specs in there. Actually, I'll drive. I know exactly which property I want to show you. We walk outside together. Marlow's BMW is parked in the alley behind the bar, away from the streetlights. As we approach the car, I notice he's sweating despite the cool evening air. Marlow, before we go anywhere, I want to ask you something. He stops walking. What's that? How long have you been planning to eliminate me? The question hangs in the air between us. Marlow's face goes through several expressions before settling on confused innocence. I don't know what you mean. The insurance policy, the forged medical records, the pregnancy. I step closer to him. How long have you and Talia been planning this? Silas, I think you're confused about something. Am I confused about you being the father of my wife's baby? His face goes pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you confused about signing paperwork to be the beneficiary of my life insurance? That's just a business arrangement. What business, Marlow? We don't have any business together. He starts backing toward his car. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is you thinking I'm stupid enough to fall for this scheme. Marlow reaches for his car door handle, but I grab his wrist. He's soft from years of office work, and I'm strong from years of construction. The grip gets his complete attention. Here's what's going to happen, I tell him quietly. You're going to get in your car and drive away. You're going to stop taking calls from Talia. And you're going to pray that I don't decide to have a conversation with your wife about where you've been spending your evenings. Silas, you don't understand the situation. I understand that you're about to become the father of a child you can't support, with a woman who's about to lose her job for violating company policy. I release his wrist. I also understand that insurance fraud is a felony. Marlow gets in his car without another word. As he drives away, Denny approaches from the bar entrance. How'd it go? He was planning to take me somewhere isolated, I report, probably hoping I'd have an accident. You rattled him pretty good. He looked like he was about to wet himself. Good, let him sweat for a while. But as we walk back to our vehicles, I realize this confrontation was just the opening round. Marlow and Talia have too much invested in their scheme to give up easily. They'll regroup and try a different approach. I need to be ready for whatever comes next. Sunday morning brings an unexpected visitor. Sylvie Noren, Marlow's wife, rings my doorbell at 9 a.m. while Talia is at the grocery store. Mrs. Noren, this is a surprise. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to talk with you about something. I invite her in and offer coffee. Sylvie is elegant and composed, but I can see the strain around her eyes. She's been having her own difficult conversations lately. I've been thinking about what happened at the company picnic, she begins, once we're seated in my living room. My stepson's comments about the phone calls. Kids say things without understanding the implications. Tyler understands more than people give him credit for. Sylvie sets down her coffee cup. He's been telling me about his father's late-night phone calls for months. Always the same woman's name, always very secretive. That must be difficult. What's difficult is realizing your husband is planning to leave you for someone else. Her voice is steady, but her hands shake slightly. What's worse is discovering he's been forging documents and manipulating insurance policies. I lean forward. What do you know about the insurance policies? Marlow thinks I don't pay attention to his paperwork, but I've been managing our finances for 15 years. Sylvie opens her purse and pulls out a folder. I found copies of documents with your forged signature. I also found correspondence between Marlow and Talia dating back over a year. She hands me the folder. Inside are photocopies of emails, insurance forms, and what looks like a timeline written in Marlow's handwriting. The emails between Marlow and Talia start innocently enough, but quickly become personal, then intimate, then operational. One email from Talia, dated 4 months ago, makes my hands clench. S still doesn't suspect anything. The medical records modification worked perfectly. Once the baby arrives, we can move to the final phase. Final phase, I repeat. Keep reading, Sylvie suggests grimly. Marlow's response, insurance policy is in place. We need to be patient and wait for the right opportunity. It has to look completely accidental. I close the folder and look at Sylvie. Why are you showing me this? Because I want them to pay for what they've done. Her composure finally cracks, and I see the anger underneath. Marlow thinks he can discard me like an old business contract. He thinks he can steal millions of dollars and start a new life with your wife. What do you want from me? I want to help you destroy them both. Before I can respond, I hear Talia's car in the driveway. Sylvie quickly gathers up the folder and stands. Think about it, she says. I'll be in touch. She leaves through the back door just as Talia comes in the front with grocery bags. I help carry the bags to the kitchen, my mind racing with what Sylvie just revealed. Who was that, leaving the backyard? Talia asks casually. Neighbor's cat got loose again, I lie. I was helping look for it. Oh, did you find it? Yeah, it turned up exactly where I expected. That evening, while Talia takes a bath, I review everything Sylvie gave me. The emails paint a picture of a relationship that's been building for over a year, with careful planning and detailed coordination. They've been patient, methodical, and thorough. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated both their spouses. Now Sylvie and I have something in common. We both want justice for what they've done, and we both have access to information they don't know we possess. Time to turn their own patience and planning against them. Monday morning, Dr. Martinez's office calls with the genetic testing results. They're ready for pickup, but policy requires both parents to receive them together. I schedule an appointment for Wednesday afternoon, giving myself 2 days to prepare for what I already know they'll show. I spend Monday evening reviewing Sylvie's documents more carefully. The email trail between Marlow and Talia reveals not just an affair, but a sophisticated long-term plan. They've been coordinating their stories, timing their moves, and preparing for multiple contingencies. One email particularly catches my attention. Talia wrote, "If he gets suspicious before we're ready, we might need to accelerate the timeline. The policy has an accidental provision that pays immediately." Marlow's response, "Patience. Rushing leads to mistakes. We stick to the plan unless absolutely necessary." They've been planning my demise for months, treating it like a business project with deadlines and deliverables. Tuesday, I meet with Jake to review legal options. His office is in a converted Victorian house downtown, with law books and case files stacked on every surface. Jake's been practicing family law for 20 years, and he's seen every variation of marital deception. The emails Sylvie provided are admissible evidence, Jake confirms after reviewing the documents. They show clear intent to commit insurance fraud, conspiracy, and potentially attempted homicide. What about the forged signatures? Felony forgery, minimum 2 years if convicted. The insurance fraud adds another 5 to 7 years. Jake leans back in his chair. Silas, you've got enough evidence to put them both in prison. I want more than prison time, I tell him. I want them destroyed completely. What did you have in mind? Public humiliation, financial ruin, professional disgrace. I lean forward. I want everyone they know to understand exactly what they are. Jake considers this. That's more complicated than criminal charges. You'd need to expose them in a way that damages their reputations permanently. Sylvie mentioned that Riverfront Logistics has a morality clause in their executive contracts, something about conduct that damages the company's reputation. If Marlow violates a morality clause, he could lose his position, his company shares, everything. Jake makes notes on his legal pad. But you'd need proof of conduct that specifically harms the business. Like having an affair with a subordinate employee while defrauding insurance companies? That would definitely qualify. We spend an hour planning a strategy that goes beyond criminal prosecution. Jake explains how to document everything properly, how to time revelations for maximum impact, and how to protect myself legally while exposing their scheme. Remember, Jake warns as I prepare to leave, Once you start this process, there's no going back. They'll fight dirty and it's going to get ugly. It's already ugly, I point out. I'm just making sure everyone else can see it. Wednesday afternoon, Talia and I sit in Dr. Martinez's office receiving the genetic testing results. Dr. Martinez is professional and thorough, explaining each component of the report before delivering the conclusion we all knew was coming. The paternity test shows conclusively that Mr. Marin is not the biological father of the fetus, he states clearly. The probability of paternity is 0%. Talia stares at the report like she's seeing it for the first time. Her performance is impressive. Shock, confusion, and growing distress. That's impossible, she says. There must be some mistake. The testing is extremely accurate, Dr. Martinez assures her. There's no possibility of error with these results. But how can that be? Talia turns to me with tears in her eyes. Silas, you're the only one I've been with. I take her hand and squeeze gently. It's okay, honey. We'll figure this out. Dr. Martinez discreetly excuses himself to give us privacy. Once he's gone, Talia continues her performance. I don't understand what happened, she says. Maybe the vasectomy reversed itself somehow. That's not how vasectomies work, I tell her gently. But don't worry about it right now. The important thing is making sure you and the baby are healthy. Silas, what are we going to do? We're going to take care of you and figure out the rest later. I help her stand. Let's go home and talk about this properly. On the drive home, Talia is quiet, except for occasional sniffles. I can almost see her mind working, trying to figure out how to salvage the situation. She doesn't know that I've been recording every conversation for the past week. That evening, after Talia goes to bed early claiming exhaustion, I call Marlow's cell phone. He answers on the first ring. Silas, is everything all right? We got the paternity test results today, I tell him. Long pause. And? You're going to be a father, Marlow. Congratulations. Another pause, longer this time. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Silas, I think you're confused about something. I'm not confused about anything. Talia's carrying your child, you're listed as the beneficiary on my life insurance, and you've been planning this for over a year. I let that sink in. What I'm confused about is why you thought I wouldn't figure it out. I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing. I'm not playing a game, Marlow. I'm ending one. I pause for effect. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling the board of directors at Riverfront Logistics. I'm going to share some very interesting emails between you and my wife. You're bluffing. Friday morning, I'm meeting with investigators from Mutual Assurance Company. They're very interested in fraudulent policy modifications. Silence on the other end. Monday morning, I'm filing for divorce and requesting a restraining order based on credible threats to my safety. I let him absorb this timeline. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to have a conversation about how to resolve this situation quietly. What do you want? I want you to resign from Riverfront Logistics. I want you to remove yourself from my insurance policy. And I want you to take financial responsibility for the child you fathered. And if I do all that, then maybe we can avoid involving law enforcement in your little scheme. Marlow hangs up without responding, but I know he'll be making some urgent phone calls tonight. Probably to Talia, definitely to a lawyer, possibly to someone who can help him disappear quickly. I'm counting on him making mistakes when he panics. Thursday morning brings unexpected developments. Talia leaves for work an hour early, claiming she needs to finish a project before the weekend. 20 minutes after she leaves, Sylvie calls my cell phone. They're meeting at Marlow's office right now, she reports. Emergency strategy session. How do you know? I've been monitoring his phone calls since Sunday. He called Talia at 6 this morning, told her they needed to talk immediately. Are you recording the conversations? Every word. Marlow thinks I'm too naive to understand technology. Sylvie's voice carries a note of satisfaction. He's about to learn how wrong he is. What are they discussing? Damage control. Talia wants to claim you threatened her. Marlow wants to disappear before the insurance investigation starts. And what did you tell your husband about his late-night phone calls? I told him I hired a private investigator 6 months ago. Sylvie pauses. I told him I know about the forged documents, the insurance fraud, and the pregnancy. How did he react? He's packing a suitcase right now. This is moving faster than I expected. If Marlow runs before I can expose them publicly, he might escape the consequences entirely. I need to accelerate my timeline. Sylvie, can you delay him somehow? Keep him in town for another day or two? I can try. What do you have in mind? I want to make sure everyone knows what they've done before they have a chance to reinvent the story. Leave that to me, Sylvie says. I've been planning my own revenge for months. After she hangs up, I call Jake and explain the new developments. He agrees that we need to move quickly before Marlow disappears. File the insurance fraud complaint today, Jake advises. Once there's an active investigation, it becomes much harder for him to leave the state. What about the company morality clause? I'll contact Riverfront Logistics this afternoon. If they're smart, they'll distance themselves from this situation immediately. By noon, I've filed complaints with the insurance company and the state attorney's office. By 2 p.m., Jake has spoken with Riverfront Logistics Corporate Counsel. By 4 p.m., Marlow Trasker is suspended pending investigation. The wheels of justice move slowly, but the wheels of corporate self-preservation move very quickly. Friday morning, I drive to Emma's school for her weekly parent volunteer session. It's my turn to help with reading groups, and I've been looking forward to the normalcy of 8-year-old problems and picture books. But as I'm leaving the school, I notice a familiar car in the parking lot. Marlow's BMW with Marlow inside watching the building. When he sees me, he gets out and approaches. We need to talk, he says. I thought we covered everything in our previous conversations. You're destroying innocent people with your accusations. Marlow looks like he hasn't slept in days. Talia's pregnant and scared. My family is being torn apart by rumors. Innocent people? I step closer to him. You forged my signature on insurance documents. You've been planning my accidental demise for months. You got my wife pregnant and coached my daughter to lie about it. That's not what happened. Then explain what did happen, Marlow. Explain how your DNA ended up in my wife's baby. He doesn't have an answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, I continue. You're going to stay away from my daughter's school. You're going to stay away from my family. And you're going to hope that the insurance investigators are more interested in recovering money than pressing criminal charges. Silas, please. We can work something out. We already worked something out. You lost. As I drive away, I see Marlow standing in the parking lot looking defeated. But I know he's not giving up yet. Desperate people make dangerous choices, and Marlow is running out of options. I need to be ready for whatever he tries next. Saturday morning, Sylvie calls with an update on Marlow's activities. Her voice carries a note of grim satisfaction that I recognize from my own recent conversations. He tried to withdraw $50,000 from our joint investment account yesterday, she reports. I had already frozen all our accounts and moved the money to my personal holdings. How did he react to that? He threw his laptop across the office and started making phone calls to people I don't recognize. Sylvie pauses. I think he's trying to arrange some kind of emergency financing. For what? Running away, probably. Or paying someone to solve his problems more directly. The implication hangs between us. Marlow is desperate enough to consider extreme solutions, and desperate people make dangerous choices. Sylvie, maybe you should stay somewhere else for a few days. I'm not afraid of my husband, she says firmly. But I am going to make sure he faces consequences for what he's done. What do you have in mind? Riverfront Logistics is having their annual shareholder meeting Monday morning. All the major investors, board members, and company executives will be there. Her voice takes on a predatory edge. I think they deserve to know exactly what kind of man they've been trusting with their business. You're going to expose him publicly. I'm going to destroy him completely. After she hangs up, I realize that Sylvie and I want the same thing, total devastation of the people who betrayed us, but we're approaching it from different angles. She wants to destroy Marlow's professional reputation. I want to expose the entire conspiracy. Maybe it's time to coordinate our efforts. Sunday afternoon, while Talia naps, I drive to Sylvie's house to discuss strategy. The Noren home is everything I expected: elegant, expensive, and cold. Sylvie meets me at the door wearing designer clothes and a smile that could cut glass. Marlow's at the office trying to salvage his career, she says, as she leads me to a sitting room filled with antique furniture. He doesn't know I've already spoken with 3 board members about his recent activities. What was their reaction? Shock, anger, and a strong desire to distance the company from potential scandal. Sylvie pours coffee from an expensive-looking service. They're particularly concerned about the insurance fraud implications, because it reflects on their corporate ethics standards. Exactly. Riverfront Logistics has government contracts that require strict compliance with federal regulations. Any hint of fraud could cost them millions in business. I sip the coffee and consider the implications. So they'll want to make an example of Marlow to protect their other contracts. They'll want to destroy him publicly to prove their commitment to ethical business practices. Sylvie's smile becomes more genuine, which aligns perfectly with our goals. We spend an hour planning Monday's shareholder meeting. Sylvie has access to the building and knows the schedule. I have documentation of the insurance fraud and conspiracy. Together, we can present a complete picture of Marlow and Talia's scheme. What about Talia? Sylvie asks. She's as guilty as Marlow, but she doesn't work for the company anymore. I'm handling Talia separately, I tell her. By the time we're finished, she'll wish she'd never heard my name. Sunday evening, Talia and I have dinner together like a normal married couple. She's been subdued since the paternity test results, but she's still playing her role as the confused, innocent wife. I've been thinking about what Dr. Martinez said, she begins carefully. About the test results. What about them? Maybe we should get a second opinion. Sometimes labs make mistakes. She reaches across the table to take my hand. I know this baby is yours, Silas. I can feel it. The test was pretty definitive, Talia. But science isn't always perfect. Remember that couple in the news who got the wrong results and almost divorced before they figured out the lab switched samples? I nod sympathetically, but I'm thinking about the emails where she and Marlow discussed timing my accidental demise. She's still trying to manipulate me, even knowing that I have proof of her deception. Maybe you're right, I agree. We could get another test done. Really? Her relief is obvious. I was hoping you'd say that. Of course. I want to be absolutely certain about everything. I squeeze her hand. In fact, maybe we should include Marlow in the testing. Her hand goes rigid in mine. Marlow? Why would we include him? Well, if there was some kind of lab error, we should test against other people who might have been confused with me. Marlow's about my age, similar background, just to rule out any possibility of sample confusion. That seems unnecessary. Probably, but I want to be thorough. I release her hand and return to my dinner. I'll call Dr. Martinez tomorrow and set up the additional testing. Talia doesn't eat much after that. Monday morning arrives with unseasonably cold weather and gray skies that match my mood. Today is the day everything comes together. Sylvie's presentation to the board, my meeting with insurance investigators, and the beginning of the end for Marlow and Talia. I dress carefully in my best suit, the one I wore to my father's funeral 3 years ago. It seems appropriate for what I'm about to do. The Riverfront Logistics building is a converted warehouse on the downtown riverfront, all exposed brick and industrial windows, trying to look modern and successful. I arrive 15 minutes before the shareholder meeting, carrying a briefcase full of documentation and a digital recorder in my jacket pocket. Sylvie meets me in the lobby, looking elegant and composed, in a way that suggests she's been planning this moment for months. "Are you ready?" she asks. "I've been ready since I found out they were planning to eliminate me." "Good, because there's no going back after today." The shareholder meeting is held in a conference room on the 3rd floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. About 30 people are present: board members, major investors, senior executives, and their spouses. Marlow sits at the head table looking nervous, but trying to project confidence. Talia isn't here, which means she doesn't know what's about to happen. The meeting begins with routine business: financial reports, operational updates, and strategic planning discussions. Marlow presents quarterly results for his division, and everything seems normal until the chairman asks if there are any other matters to discuss. Sylvie stands up. "I have some information the board needs to hear about my husband's recent activities," she announces. The room goes quiet. Marlow's face loses all color. "Sylvie, this isn't the appropriate venue for personal matters," the chairman says diplomatically. "This isn't a personal matter," Sylvie replies. "This is about insurance fraud, document forgery, and conspiracy to commit felonies, all involving a senior executive of this company." Now she has everyone's complete attention. For the next 20 minutes, Sylvie presents evidence of Marlow's scheme with the precision of a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. She shows the forged insurance documents, reads excerpts from emails discussing my planned elimination, and explains how the conspiracy violates multiple federal regulations. Marlow tries to interrupt several times, but the board chairman tells him to remain silent until Sylvie finishes her presentation. When she's done, the room is silent except for the sound of rain beginning to hit the windows. "Mr. Trasker," the chairman says finally, "do you have any response to these allegations?" Marlow stands slowly, looking around the room at faces that were friendly an hour ago and are now cold with disgust. "These are lies," he says. "My wife is having a breakdown, and she's trying to destroy me out of spite." "What about the insurance documents with forged signatures?" asks one of the board members. "I don't know anything about forged signatures." "What about the emails discussing accidental demise provisions?" asks another. "Those emails are taken out of context." I decide it's time to join the conversation. I stand up and address the room. "My name is Silas Marin. I'm the man they were planning to eliminate." Every eye in the room turns to me. Marlow looks like he's about to be sick. "I have additional evidence that supports everything Mrs. Noren just presented," I continue, "including recorded conversations where Mr. Trasker discusses the timeline for arranging my accident." I play a portion of Saturday night's phone call where Marlow discusses accelerating their plans. His voice fills the conference room, admitting to knowledge of the insurance fraud and discussing contingency plans. When the recording ends, the chairman looks at Marlow with an expression of complete disgust. "Mr. Trasker, you're terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the building. The company will be cooperating fully with law enforcement in their investigation of your activities." "You can't do this," Marlow protests. "I built this division. I brought in millions of dollars in contracts." "You brought shame and potential criminal liability to this company," the chairman replies. "Your employment is terminated. Your company shares are forfeited under the morality clause, and you're banned from company property." 2 security guards appear as if by magic. They escort Marlow from the room while he continues protesting his innocence. The last thing I hear him say is, "This is all a misunderstanding." After he's gone, the board spends another hour discussing damage control and legal compliance. They're worried about their government contracts and their corporate reputation. They want to make sure everyone understands that Riverfront Logistics has zero tolerance for criminal activity. As the meeting breaks up, several board members approach me to apologize for their former employees' actions. They're genuinely appalled by what they've learned, and they want to make sure I understand that the company had no knowledge of Marlow's scheme. I assure them that I hold no ill will toward Riverfront Logistics. My quarrel was with Marlow personally, not with his employer. Outside the building, Sylvie and I stand in the parking lot, watching the rain fall on the river. "How do you feel?" she asks. "Like justice was served," I tell her. "How about you?" "Like I finally got my life back." We shake hands formally, two people who found common cause in seeking justice for betrayal. "What happens now?" she asks. "Now I go home and have a conversation with my wife." The drive home takes 15 minutes through downtown traffic. I use the time to think about what I'm going to say to Talia. She's probably expecting me to come home upset about losing my job or worried about our financial situation. She has no idea that her entire world is about to collapse. I find her in the kitchen, making what looks like a celebration dinner. Candles on the table, wine breathing on the counter, her best dress. She's planned a romantic evening, probably hoping to convince me that we can work through our problems together. "You're home early," she says, kissing my cheek. "How was your day?" "Educational," I tell her. "I learned some interesting things about insurance fraud and conspiracy charges." Her smile falters slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean your boyfriend just got fired from Riverfront Logistics for planning my accidental demise." I sit down at the kitchen table. "I mean the FBI is opening an investigation into forged documents and fraudulent insurance policies." Talia's face goes through several expressions before settling on confused innocence. "Silas, I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do." I pull out my phone and play the recording of our conversation after the paternity test. Her voice fills the kitchen, suggesting that we get a second opinion and include Marlow in the testing. "You knew exactly why I suggested testing Marlow," I continue. "Because you knew he's the father of your baby." That recording doesn't prove anything. Maybe not by itself, but combined with the emails between you and Marlow discussing my elimination, the forged medical records in my file, and the insurance policy modifications, it paints a pretty clear picture. I place printed copies of all the evidence on the kitchen table between us. Emails, insurance documents, medical records, phone logs, everything documented and organized like a legal brief. Talia stares at the papers without touching them. "We can work this out," she says finally. "People make mistakes. We can fix this." "The only mistake was thinking I wouldn't figure out what you were planning." "Silas, please. I love you. We can start over." "You love me so much that you spent a year planning my demise so you could collect insurance money with your boyfriend." I stand up from the table. "That's not love, Talia. That's premeditated fraud." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to let you pack a bag and leave, tonight, before the investigators decide they want to question you." "And if I don't?" "Then you can explain to federal agents why you forged my signature on insurance documents and coached my daughter to lie about medical procedures I never had." Talia looks at the evidence spread across our kitchen table, then at me, then back at the papers. I can see her calculating options and finding nothing that leads to a good outcome. "How long do I have?" "1 hour." She goes upstairs without another word. I hear drawers opening and closing, hangers sliding in the closet, the sounds of someone packing quickly for a trip with no planned return date. While she packs, I call Jake to update him on the day's events. "The board meeting went better than expected," I report. "Marlow's been terminated and banned from company property." "What about Talia?" "She's packing now. I gave her an hour to leave voluntarily." "Silas, are you sure about this? Once she's gone, there's no going back." "There was no going back the moment they decided to forge my signature on insurance documents." "Fair enough. What about the baby?" "That's between Talia and Marlow. I'm not the father, and I'm not taking responsibility for their choices." After I hang up, I sit in my kitchen surrounded by evidence of betrayal and think about what comes next. Tomorrow, I'll file for divorce. Next week, I'll meet with insurance investigators. Next month, I'll probably testify before a grand jury. But tonight, I'm just a man whose wife is packing to leave him for someone who can't protect her from the consequences of their actions. Talia comes downstairs with 2 suitcases and her laptop bag. She's changed into traveling clothes and tied her hair back like she's preparing for a long journey. "Where will you go?" I ask. "I don't know yet." "What about the baby?" "I'll figure it out." She pauses at the front door and turns back to look at me. "I never wanted it to go this far," she says. "It started as just an affair, and then it got complicated. It got complicated when you decided to forge my signature and plan my elimination. We never actually planned to hurt you. The insurance thing was just insurance, in case something happened naturally. Something like an arranged accident." She doesn't deny it. "Goodbye, Silas." "Goodbye, Talia." She leaves without looking back. I watch from the kitchen window as she loads her car and drives away into the rainy evening. Her taillights disappear around the corner, and I realize I'm alone in my house for the first time in 8 years. It feels like freedom. I pour myself a scotch and sit in my living room thinking about justice and revenge and the difference between the two. Marlow and Talia planned to destroy my life for money and convenience. Instead, they destroyed their own lives through greed and stupidity. Tomorrow, the legal process begins in earnest. Investigators will ask questions, lawyers will file motions, and eventually, justice will be served through official channels. But tonight, justice has already been served. The people who betrayed me are facing the consequences of their choices. They're unemployed, disgraced, and running from federal investigators. They got exactly what they deserved. I finish my scotch and go to bed in a house that's finally quiet. No more late-night phone calls, no more whispered conversations, no more lies disguised as loving concern. Just peace, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the good guys actually win.